The NFL head coaching shuffle-a-palooza is now complete. How did your team do? Let's see. 10 NFL teams have now found a new head coach, which ties the record set in 2022, 2006, 1997, and 1978. Some teams hired in-house, a lot of teams found an external candidate, one team promoted their own coordinator, and some teams brought back old friends. We're going to see how every team did with their coaching hire in 2026 by giving all of them a grade. Also, please note, some of these grades are bound to age poorly as so if they do age poorly, just leave a comment and just rip me a new one, will ya? So let's get started with the first head coaching hire. The New York Giants hired John Harbaugh. I'm gonna give that one a solid A. When the Ravens fired Harbaugh, it was kind of a shock, but it kind of came as expected as well, as Baltimore had kind of plateaued as a team. Both the Ravens and Harbaugh kind of needed a change, and the Giants right away were like, oh yeah, get the over here now. As a result, the New York Football Giants threw $100 million at John Harbaugh in a 5-year deal. It cements the Hall of Fame coach's legacy as this offseason's most highly coveted head coaching candidate who looks like he gets 100% of his outfits from golf course gift shops. We're all so proud. John Harbaugh has an impeccable coaching resume in Baltimore. He won a Super Bowl in the 2012 season. He's only had 3 losing seasons as a head coach. 2 years where he went 8-9, and 1 season where he went 5-11, where his number 1 receiver was Guy Alert, Kamar Aiken. His staff is incomplete as of now. He has Denard Wilson as his defensive coordinator, but his offensive staff, including his OC and QB coach roles, have yet to be filled. That's incomplete as of now, but the candidate alone gives this hire at least an A- grade, more trending towards an A grade. He's deeply experienced and has a Hall of Fame resume. Best case scenario, he provides stability to a franchise on the rise that also desperately needs it, especially since one of their owners was found to be in the Epstein files. You know what? It. I'm a bite. I have so many questions. Who uses Ukrainian girl as the subject in an email? Why do you prefer fake boobies? Why describe someone as my present? Why do you need a wingman if you're a billionaire with a B? Why be a publicly rich person and have someone clearly way younger than you go out with you without thinking some people might think something's up? If anything, John Harbaugh is proof that Steve Tisch can have a positive association with one of Donald Trump's friends. Next up is Atlanta Falcons head coach Kevin Stefanski, who I'm going to give a B+. After John Harbaugh, the fired head coach who I was most confident would find a head coaching gig pretty quickly was former Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski. Coaching the Browns is a truly impossible task, and considering he was named coach of the year twice, I'd like to think he did all right. Andrew Berry didn't make it any easier by getting Deshaun Watson involved in the most lopsided trade and worst contract in NFL history. Side note, I hate the term best and worst NFL trades. The most lopsided trade is how all of them should be worded. You can't call a trade the worst if one team is like, hey, we loved that Kevin Stefanski will now head to Atlanta, where he got a bunch of his old Cleveland friends to join his staff. Offensive coordinator Tommy Rees, QB coach Alex Van Pelt, offensive line coach Bill Callahan, defensive coordinator Drew Carey, special teams coordinator Kid Cudi, and defensive assistants up-and-coming metalcore band Knight Rider. They're so good. Great dudes, too. Check them out. Kevin Stefanski has a ton of weapons at his disposal, because he's got Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and maybe Kyle Pitts if they decide to keep him around. Stefanski will also guide the 3rd year of quarterback Michael Penix, which should be great considering Kevin Stefanski is heavily experienced in working with quarterbacks who were acquired under extremely questionable circumstances. Kevin Stefanski is a guy who truly deserves a second shot at head coaching, and he has some gnarly pieces to work with, especially on offense. Next up is new Miami Dolphins head coach Jeff Hafley, who I'm going to give a B-. The Dolphins are kind of in the process of a rebuild, and they can't really rebuild truly until they move on from Tua Tagovailoa. Apparently, the people in the Dolphins building loved Jeff Hafley, but his resume didn't blow me away. He was a pretty mediocre coach at Boston College, which is kind of mind-blowing considering he had Zay Flowers for 3 of his 4 seasons. I know one player doesn't fix everything, but let me make a point. His defense regressed from 2024 to 2025, despite having Micah Parsons on it. Granted, it was the ultimate it's who you know hire, as former Packers front office worker and new Dolphins GM John Benet Sullivan was like, come on down, buddy. Jeff Hafley will replace eternal meme Mike McDaniel, and he now has some pretty big flip-flops to fill. This grade should be graded as incomplete, as his pro prospects are largely unknown, especially as a head coach. It could work, it might not. I just don't want to make any definite statements here. It was just a needed change for a Dolphins team that hasn't won a playoff game since 2000. Is Jeff Hafley the guy? Who knows? But based on where I went to college, I'm seeing a lot of promise. I stand by it. Shut up. Next up is Tennessee Titans new head coach Robert Saleh, who I'm giving an A-. Jets fans were pretty quick to criticize the Robert Saleh hire, but man, you're a Jets fan. No Jets fan has had a good experience with a head coach. Even the not-awful Rex Ryan years had a foot fetish controversy. I fully believe that Robert Saleh was scapegoated in New York. They desperately wanted Aaron Rodgers to work out, and every time Saleh didn't act as Aaron Rodgers' enabler, he would get the blame. The coach who looks like the nice but also ignored angel on Andrew Tate's left shoulder went 20-36 in his 3.5 seasons with the Jets before returning to San Francisco to be their defensive coordinator. As for his pro prospects with the Titans, I genuinely like the hire. Anyone who can last at least a season and a half in New York has to at least be a half-decent head coach. He'll get to work with Cam Ward, who quietly ascended in the latter half of his rookie season. Not only did the Titans hire Robert Saleh, but the Titans made one of my favorite hires of the offseason with offensive coordinator Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll was who helped transform Josh Allen into the QB he is today, considering he was Josh Allen's offensive coordinator for Allen's 2nd through 5th seasons. I like this hire of Robert Saleh for a rebuilding team who is on the rise. I don't know if the Titans will compete right away, but this could be the Sam Darnold of coaching hires, as in a guy who succeeds out of New York and is a testament to how awful the Jets organization is. Side note, Aaron Glenn is a midseason firing waiting to happen. Next up is new Ravens head coach Jesse Minter, who I'm gonna give an A. The Ravens moved on from old Johnny Harbaugh after years of not advancing to the football promised land with the most exciting QB in the league. They then moved on to Jesse Minter, who is a familiar face. He rose through the coaching ranks in Baltimore, became a solid DC with the Chargers, made a name for himself as a legit coaching candidate, and landed in Baltimore as their head coach. I have no complaints about the hire itself, except for the fact that we're about to get our asses kicked for 2 games a year. They also got Declan Doyle from the Bears to be their offensive coordinator, which is a solid move in itself. I genuinely have no issues with anything they did as far as coaching this offseason. They're solid and they will continue to be solid. And before I rip the Steelers and Mike McCarthy a new asshole, if you like what you've seen so far, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. We do plenty of comedic shorts around here. We have an awful lot of fun. I have a lot of season review and off-season preview videos to do, and I can't wait to get them all underway to get this channel absolutely skyrocketing. Let's party. But for now, back to the video. The Steelers hired Mike McCarthy, and I'm gonna give this one a C-. This might be the funniest hire of the offseason. The instant Pittsburgh made that hire, they made it seem like fate. They're like, oh my goodness, he's from Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgher through and through. He won a Super Bowl back when Aaron Rodgers didn't have gray in his beard or conspiracy theories that reeked of CTE. Mike Tomlin stepped down after a tenure that existed before iPhones existed in the US. Good gravy. And speaking of good gravy, Mike McCarthy's midsection. I'm here for the continued mediocrity. This is a Steelers team that is scared about the possibility of a rebuild, especially after being heaps of mid for the past several seasons. They hired a Primanti Brothers sandwich who has head coaching experience, but his best days might be behind him. He may very well be the Steelers' desperate attempt to lure Aaron Rodgers back for one more hilariously mediocre season of pretending that DK Metcalf isn't just George Pickens with more abs. Steelers fans don't love the hire, and on behalf of them, neither do I. This doesn't seem to be like a solid long-term plan. Next up is Buffalo Bills new head coach Joe Brady, who I'm gonna give a B+. I don't love how this all went down, because Brandon Beane and Terry Pegula scapegoated their old head coach, who seemed pretty solid for quite some time. They just made Sean McDermott the source of everyone's problems in Buffalo, and as a result, he was given a sweet, heavy boot of go f yourself. He's out. Drama took place. They wanted change, and they got it by hiring from within. Bills fans were pretty pessimistic about Joe Brady, and then the introductory press conference happened. Joe Brady said, "I don't believe in hiring friends, I believe in hiring the best people for the job," which goes against everything he learned at the Zach Taylor School of Hard Knocks. He also claims to have stood on the table for Keon Coleman, which is the most respectful way anyone in Buffalo has ever treated a table. Basically, he got everyone to run through a brick wall for them. It appears that Joe Brady won over the front office and Josh Allen during the interview process. Things should work out for the best, assuming Joe Brady's Rudy speech comes to fruition. As long as the staff in Buffalo can ensure that Josh Allen isn't the fall guy for literally everything, Joe Brady could be a much better head coaching hire than people expected him to be at first. Next up is new Cleveland Browns head coach Todd Monken. I'm gonna give this one kind of in between a C+ and a B-. The Browns have hired Todd Monken as their head coach, which explains the billboard I saw in Cleveland today that said, "Dear Browns, go f*** yourself, love Jim Schwartz." The Browns hired the former Ravens offensive coordinator, who was their own offensive coordinator in the one season that Odell Beckham was supposed to lead them to the promised land. Instead, it led Freddie Kitchens to the unemployment line. He brought along Travis Schwartz, who was Baltimore's run game coordinator, along with him to be their offensive coordinator. Mind you, writing "give the ball to Derrick Henry" in all caps on a clipboard is a job I could do with a decent amount of success. The Browns did screw over Jim Schwartz in the process, who the players loved and is arguably one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. He kind of wants nothing to do with them now, but the Browns have no interest in letting him walk. Divorce court? We shall see. This hire doesn't do much for me in terms of an "are the Browns ready to compete" perspective, but it does help give them an improved offensive identity. I'm not sure, man. Talking about the Browns makes me want to take a nap. The Las Vegas Raiders hired Klint Kubiak, who I am giving an A. I love this hire. I was worried the Raiders were going to get a Mark Davis wet dream as a guy who kind of sucked but was really fun to imagine in a headset. Instead, they got arguably the most coveted coordinator on the market with Klint Kubiak. He helped turn Sam Darnold into a serviceable Super Bowl starter in Seattle, and he helped turn Jackson Smith and Jerry Rice into a superstar. I love what he was able to accomplish. Now, they have Klint Kubiak to help spearhead their rebuild. They have Ashton Genty, they have Brock Bowers, they're gonna have Fernando Mendoza, they are gonna have offensive line help, allegedly, possibly, definitely, maybe. As of now, this is the best head coaching hire they could have possibly made. I just hope Klint Kubiak is ready to have receivers who have really fast 40-yard dash times and absolutely no other good qualities. And finally, the Arizona Cardinals hired Mike LaFleur, who I'm gonna give a B. I can't be too hard on the Cardinals here, because who the f*** would want that job? They have to get rid of Kyler Murray. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the poster child for inconsistency and promise. And boy, are they in a bad situation. Well, the Cardinals nixed Jonathan Gannon one morning after he showed up at 5 a.m. for work, knowing full well that his ass was on the line. It did not work. He got the boot. Now the Cardinals moved on and went for a guy directly from the McVay tree. Classic Cardinals, always making a beeline for the branches. It's a bird joke, I'm trying here, shut up. But with the Raiders having a much more certain offense, I don't blame Kubiak one bit for taking the Raiders job. With LaFleur, it seems like there's going to be a lot of growing pains, especially with the state of the organization. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is a terrible hire by any means. At least you aren't the Jets. And that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you like this video, you can like the video and subscribe to the channel for the sexiest sports content on the internet. But for now, stay tuned for more sports content that you didn't ask for.